If there is one thing the writer of Attack on Titan knows how to do, it's how to introduce side characters or minor characters at the early stages of his series, and then use them a long time later for something very important to especially progress the plot. I really appreciate this part of the series. Keith is a character, honestly, when you first saw him in Season 1, he was a cool character, he was stubborn. Many might, reference him to Full Metal Jacket because he's just like, you gotta work, gotta keep moving, gotta keep going, potato girl, stop eating those potatoes, everybody would recognize him because of that. But besides that, that's all he was known for. He was a minor character, he hasn't really been relevant since then, and so when you see this episode, you're like, whoa, just the planning, all the planning for this very moment. Because if you go back to episode 3 of Attack on Titan, you will notice that Keith does have a connection to Grisha, Aaron's father. So you're like, oh my god, like, it all makes sense. And so, it shows the writer knew what he was doing since the very beginning, where to take his series, what characters to use and set them up for, and that's what was very surprising. Now, I think one of the best moments of this episode was probably one certain line that Keith said. I was nothing but a bystander. Powerful line. Very powerful line. And I feel like many are not really going to comprehend the true depth of that word, why it's so powerful. And you see, every single day, when we wake up in the morning, we put on our shoes, put on our clothes, whatever, we get up, get food, go to work, go to school, whatever we do throughout the day, technically, we are the main character of our lives. That's what we are. No matter what, we are the main character of our lives, which is kind of satisfying the way you feel good about yourself. But in reality, most of us, even myself included, most of us, even though we are the main character of our lives and we dictate what happens within our lives, sometimes there's things that happen that are outside of our control because we can't do as much as certain others, certain individuals that were gifted or special since the very beginning. And that's what makes this episode so powerful, is because you get to see how this connects with reality and how certain people, when they're born, they're not born equally. There's many problems to where there's not equality at all in the way people are born. When you see stuff like how Aaron's been dealing with a lot of issues these past couple episodes, and the wake-up call he found out when he wasn't special, that, someone else could do his exact same job, he got, upset, sad, and he didn't feel like he was better than anyone, and, his ego kind of came down. He realized even though he was the MC, he wasn't really the main MC. Just a few things in writing can easily write Aaron out, and, his character could have been replaced by someone else better for the job. So, this episode correlates with what Aaron was going through, and that's kind of what the writer wanted you to see. But it also connects to real life, because there's, like I said, a lot of things outside of our control that we can't really control what happens around us. People in power and all that can dictate what really happens to us, and we can't really do much about it, honestly. We could fight, we could squirm, whatever, but most of the time we can't really do much about it. So seeing Keith's backstory, it was an eye-opener to how amazing the writing of Attack on Titan really can be, even for its minor characters that haven't been relevant for a very long time. The man hasn't been relevant since the beginning of Season 1, and that's years ago since that came out. So that puts in perspective of how much planning was put into this. Now, Keith is a character. Personally, before this part happened in the manga and now in the anime, I didn't care too much about him. I liked the memes and stuff that came from him, but I didn't care too much about him. He was kind of a minor character, and I was like, that's it. And seeing his backstory, I could relate with the man. I think many can relate. He was someone that thought he was special, thought he could do everything, thought he could be a better commander, lead the people, start a new future for humanity. He thought he had everything. But then he had a major wake-up call. He realized he wasn't special. He wasn't anything crazy. He was not fit for the job. There was people better than him, like Erwin. He was someone that could easily be a better commander, which has demonstrated he is a better commander. And then, someone taking up the mantle to end all Titans, Aaron, he realized he wouldn't be able to do that. So he realized he was just a regular, normal individual that might not account or amount to anything. He was just someone that was destined to just be a foot soldier and then die. Which in turn caused him to have an inferiority complex. He felt like he was inferior, he couldn't do much, which was the sole reason to why he left, being from a commander was because he felt inferior. He couldn't do much. And he was just an average person, so it didn't matter if he was in position or not. And in turn, he did make the correct decision, allowing someone to replace him take his spot. That was probably one of the best moves he did. But I feel bad for the man, because the man was like, I also had, a lot of things I could have had. Like, Aaron's mother could have potentially been with him, but because, he wasn't really special, he wasn't someone that had a lot going on, obviously the mother of Aaron didn't fall in love with him, and instead fell in love with Grisha because, he fixed her, healed her. Which, that gets into a big point we got to see. We got to see how Grisha, as an individual, he definitely shined. He was someone that definitely was special. He wasn't anyone that was just an average person going about to their day-to-day lives doing pretty much nothing. He was someone that had a cause. He was someone that saved a lot of people. Many people loved him. Many people cared about him. And so, obviously, it makes a lot of sense why Aaron's mother fell in love with him. And you gotta imagine, from Keith's perspective, when he saw Aaron's mother just, marry the man, you're like, bro. Like, you gotta imagine how he felt inferior already, but then jealousy because he could never have the woman he loved. And then when he finally came back after a long trip, he notices that, Aaron's been born, there's a baby Aaron. He's like, what the hell? That's one of the big parts about this episode that I like, is that Keith is just a very normal character, but realistic. And I think that's what makes him such an amazing character, is because of how so minor he was, but how important he is now to the plot. Because he gave a lot of details. Even if it isn't as relevant as we hoped, it is a lot of details to kind of how Grisha lived, how Aaron's mother was, how, everything, how they met. And he gave us details that Grisha was someone that was outside of the wall as well. He was someone that woke up outside, which seems to be very closely related to what happened to Ymir. So when you put all these pieces together, you're like, Grisha obviously wasn't someone that was born within the wall. He just came out of nowhere, and nobody really knew much about that. Which gets into the next big part. Keith also damaged Aaron's training equipment. You remember back in Season 1 where Aaron was looking pathetic and he couldn't even, stabilize himself to hold himself up? Well, we found out in this episode that Keith was actually the one that caused it. Broke Aaron's training equipment, broke the belt, and Aaron, still passed, even though it looked like he shouldn't have been able to. And in that moment, you can kind of view two different things on what Keith was thinking about. He was either trying to honor the wishes of the mother, Aaron's mother, because of the person he loved, honor her wishes to keep Aaron as a normal person, keep him from dying to Titans, or because of his own envy, his jealousy, and not wanting to have someone else special, and just to get back at Grisha as well. And I think that's kind of how you can view that ending segment with the training equipment, and it shows how long it's been built up for that very moment. But yeah, that's pretty much about it when it comes to the Keith stuff. It's unique, I love it, and that's why I fell in love with Attack on Titan even more than I did when I especially saw something like that in the manga. Now, getting into Historia and Eren and all that little combo they had, I really do like the fact that Historia and Eren have become a lot closer after the events that happened, with, Historia's father, and then Eren almost getting eaten by Historia. You can see that they've grown a lot closer. They're friends, really good friends now. And Mikasa's actually getting a little bit upset about that, which was pretty freaking funny, just seeing her facial reaction to Eren, actually finally getting some form of enjoyment, or, being able to be close with Historia. Which, also, speaking of Eren as well, you can see that he's really pushing himself now. He has a very different demeanor about him. He doesn't seem like the same MC we've known since the very beginning. Normally Eren is always constantly yelling, screaming, acting childish, doing anything, because he felt like he was special, he could, kill all the Titans. That's what he always assumed. And as I talked about, wake up call and all that. But we see once again in this episode, he's just very passive. He doesn't talk a lot. He mumbles to himself. He's just very dark and dreary and all that. He's just like, whoa. And when you see how in this episode he pushes himself, continuously harden his body to try to seal up the hole in the wall, you're like, okay, so it shows that the man, he doesn't care much anymore. He realizes that he can easily be replaced, and so he's just pushing himself to the very point, at least to do his part, what he can actually do. Which also, I do like the element of showing how much growth our characters have gotten in a short span of time. Honestly, not a whole lot of time has passed since the events of Attack on Titan Season 1, and seeing, the description of all the characters, like John, all of them, and Historia, seeing Mikasa, Connie, all of them, and how they all have this different atmosphere about them. They're not happy-go-lucky. It shows they are now the individuals, the hardened veterans that, you know, were at the beginning of Attack on Titan Season 1 that are now long gone. Anyways, I want to end it with that. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, how you felt about this episode of Attack on Titan. Did you enjoy it? Did you hate it? Please be honest in the comments below. If you enjoy my content, you know, please subscribe. If you like this video, please leave a like. And if you want to get notified for whenever a video is uploaded, please click the bell icon down below. And with that, Chibi out.